It was my first year of teaching at Winter Park High School, and mind you, I'm just out of college, and first year is always a little bit rough, unique, and I had my very first class clown. Around the end of the year, when we were preparing for our final exams, Mason said, by the way, Miss V, I got a doctor's note, I'm allergic to final exams. Instead of taking the traditional route of the final exam, you know I'm a musician, how about I'm gonna compose something for you. But the next day he came into class, when it was a non-exam time, he had rounded up a stool, he came in with a guitar on his hip, sits on the stool, and he starts incorporating basically all the vocabulary he'd learned throughout the whole first year of Spanish 1, and gets on the stool and goes, "Tengo un gato en mis pantalones," and I thought it was gonna stop there. And it was a pure 5-minute song of everything pretty much he'd ever learned in Spanish 1, stringing all of the "Donde está la cafeteria?" like that, saying it just like that. And he didn't let go, he didn't break character, and the whole class was just, and me as well. And we waited for the 5 minutes, and at the end of the 5 minutes, we were just crying in tears, and everybody applauded, and he got up, and he's like, "How was that?" And I go, You still need to take the exam, Mason, but that was hilarious.
Part of this whole teaching gig, I think one of the greatest things about it is that you get to build a lot of relationships that you probably wouldn't have expected with students. And there's one student in particular that came to my mind almost immediately. It was my first year here, and he was a 6th grader. And he seemed like one of those students that was really hard to get through. And I think he was just trying to test his teachers. I eventually got his trust. He visited me quite frequently in his 7th and 8th grade year, but what was most memorable about our relationship was that he entrusted me to help him with this particular program. He was going for the Duke University Talent Identification Program, but he had to score a very high score on the SAT, and he came to me for tutoring. And immediately my first thing was like, wow, he came to me of all his teachers, and he got the award. He scored extremely high. He was very proud of it, but I remember him coming into my classroom saying thank you, thank you, thank you, and he was very, very proud of it. I was very proud of him, and then after we had our conversation about that, it just kind of took me back, and I was like, wow, okay, this feels really good.
After teaching for 36 years, there are a lot of memorable moments that I have, but there's one that really stands out to me. It's a student who was going kind of through some hard times, and a lot of times, the student would be tardy. So it was the first time ever meeting him, and he came in and I said, hello, I said, did you have a tardy pass? And he said, no, I don't have a tardy pass. I said, okay, can you tell me where you're coming from? And they had my phone out there, and I was trying to get my phone. I said, okay. I said, well, can you come here, please? And no, they were trying to get my phone, and I was gonna get my phone. And finally I said, the only thing I wanted to say was, good morning. And the student just melted. I said, that's all. I said, and I'm gonna have a great day, and you're gonna have a great day. I went, okay, class. And so this student and I became very good friends after that. So one morning I was teaching, and this student had his pencil and his paper, and he was working. And all of a sudden he stood up, he went, and I was teaching a concept, and he got up, he says, I got it, Mrs. Robinson, I got it. He said, man, you just dropped some knowledge on me. He said, I'm gonna remember this for the rest of my life. And he started walking out of the classroom. He went, I got it. He said, I'm never letting it go. And he walked out the door, and he turned back around, and he opened the door again. He went, I got it. He said, I really got it. He said, out of all of my classes, he said, and all the times I've been coming to school, he said, this just, I got it, I got it. He says, I got it, and I'm not letting it go. He said, thank you, Mrs. Robinson, thank you, thank you. And he even came up and gave me a hug.
I had a class that was actually just very self-absorbed. They were really worried about who was wearing what, whose mom drove what kind of car, and they were constantly comparing each other, and it just really got to be a terrible community thing going on. And I knew I had to find a way to get them to think outside themselves. I came up with this idea of grand friends. And what I did is I called a local assisted living, and I was able to work out with that assisted living where I could pair off each student with a senior citizen who we called a grand friend. I didn't know if it was going to work, but we went on Veterans Day, The students paired off. Student talked about their family, grandfriend talked about their family, and then the activities director started to get the conversation going about their service. And they talked about their hard work, their sacrifice, what they gave to their country, and it was really powerful. But I wasn't sure if the kids got it. When we got on the bus, one of the kids stood up and said, "When can we go back?" And the other kids were like, "Yeah, we need to go back. When can we come back next week?" And that's when I knew they got it. It's not about what you get, it's about what you give.